SoundHound was up 35% last week as it smashed Q2 earnings. It's up 2% on the month and up 40% in the last 12 weeks. So SoundHound is looking bullish right now. It is setting up nicely. It's cleared that resistance level of 1270, and it does look as if now it's ready to move higher, possibly to around about $16 to $18 in stage one, and then long term up to a target of $25, giving you a potential return to that all-time high of 85%. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a price analysis for SoundHound and if you should buy this stock. Let's take a look. I'd like to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/DavidB for the 5 best stocks to buy now. Use my special link to get $200 off their epic annual subscription. Now, if you find value in my analysis of SoundHound stock today or other stocks on my channel, you may also find value in my email newsletter. If you subscribe, I'll share with you professional trading tips to help you make more profits trading stocks. Link down below, check it out. SoundHound jumped over 30% last week as it reported its Q2 earnings, which were very positive and they exceeded expectations, resulting in the stock price surging, jumping around 30% and creating a really big gap from the close of about 1070 on Thursday. It opened then on Friday at $13, reached a peak in that session of $14.26 and closed at $13.56. So a big jump for SoundHound. Investors liked the Q2 earnings report and the buyers came in aggressively, driving the price stock up. On the weekly chart for SoundHound, we can see how this stock has been performing over the last sort of 12 to 18 months. You can see I've drawn a trend line here just indicating that this AI stock is trending up. It is making consecutive higher highs and higher lows. It moved up at a steady pace from this point around here, moving up gradually before there was a big surge, a big breakout for SoundHound during November 2024, about 8 months ago now. It did surge up week by week, moving up to create this peak at around $25 before it was sold off then over the next few months, but finding support at a higher base around about 650 and finding support in correlation with this emerging trend line. And since that high $25 and the sell-off, it does look as if now SoundHound is moving up short term, corresponding with the longer term trend line. Price action for SoundHound did break this confirmed downtrend line back in April, so a few months ago now. The trend was looking like it was going to change when it broke this trend line. However, following the first week of the break, there was a bit of selling pressure. There were 2 weeks sort of down before it was bullish again. Buyers came back in the 4th week after the trend line break, and they created this price peak here around about 1271. Now, since that week there was a bit of indecision between the buyers and the sellers. Price moved down slightly and found support around about $8.95 to $9. You can see here it tested that price on a few occasions. Then in the 3rd week of June, buyers came back in and we had 3 to 4 bullish weeks with buyers coming in and buying up SoundHound stock, price moving from around $9.25 up to that close was $11.11, that close there was $11.58, and that close there was around about $12.88. Moving above this peak for the first time after this peak was created. It moved up, it got sold off, tested the sellers, and it wasn't until this week here did we have that first close above this previous peak, indicating that the probability was changing and that price was going to move up. However, that bullish momentum was only short-lived. The week after, SoundHound was sold off. It was sold back down to around about $11. It closed at $11.69. And there were 2 bearish weeks in a row for SoundHound. It ended up testing $9.67. And based on these 2 bearish bars, it did look as if, as earnings was about to come in, that the price was going to be sold off and perhaps coming down to test $9 once again, these levels here. However, there was a great report from SoundHound, very positive, very bullish report, exceeded expectations. And so the price did surge up last week. It opened at around about 10.33, and then Thursday and Friday was when the data came in, price surged up overnight, and overall it peaked up to about $14.26 and ended up closing for the week at $13.55. So very bullish for SoundHound. So you can see on screen on the weekly chart, I have marked up that level of around about 12.75, which is corresponding to this peak here. That got broken last week, very bullish bar after the earnings was reported. That does indicate that price now is likely to move higher based on price breaking that key level. I've also marked up the all-time high of $25. I'm going to mark up this peak here as well, which is around about $18 corresponding to the peak back here. Another key level to watch out for is this support level of around about $9. Underneath that, you can see SoundHound found support recently at about $6.50, significant trough here. And also you've got a couple of levels underneath that as well. You've got these two peaks here and the sideways price action. So here and here, there's some resistance and price moving through here. And then lower down, just for reference, we've got some support around 150 and then also 91 cents for the all-time low. So a lot of key levels there for this stock, but the ones of note and relevance are the ones more recently for this stock. So if I zoom in on the chart, we can see more recently after SoundHound found support at 650 and it started to move up, it's broken that trend line, it's found resistance here at around about 12.70. It moved down, found support at a higher base, about $9, and then started to move up. And you can see more recently after earnings, it has now smashed through this price peak here. So it does look as if now SoundHound has closed the other side of this level here. It does look as if now it's likely to start moving up and challenge $18. And then if it breaks 18 over the medium term, perhaps in the next 3 to 6 months, it could then move up to $25. So after a positive report last week for SoundHound, should you buy the stock now? It all depends on your investment or trading strategy. This stock does look really good right now. I'm personally long-term bullish on SoundHound. I think based on the way this stock is moving and also the fundamentals, based on the Q2 earnings report and the updated guidance for the rest of the year, plus its innovative technology that it's bringing to market. There's a lot of potential here with SoundHound. So I think $25 is a realistic target in the next 3 to 6 months, perhaps 12 months. So entering where it is now that it's pushed and closed above this peak here of 12.70, you could definitely consider buying this stock. So if you take this trade next Monday on market open and potentially get filled around about the Friday close, around about 13.56, you target that $18 level first with a 20% stop loss. I think 20% is needed here because this stock is relatively volatile. You've got an upside potential of 35%, a risk to reward of 1.66. If it trades through 18 strongly, then you can consider holding the stock and targeting that $25 over the next perhaps 3 to 6 months. This is looking good. So that's one possible trading scenario. Now, one thing to be aware of is that the stock did gap up significantly last week. We can see over on the daily, SoundHound was facing a bit of selling pressure. It did get support around 970 and was moving back up last week, looking to find a higher base at around about $10.40. So that's positive last week. Q2 earnings reported, price absolutely jumped off the chart almost. It really surged up. And of course, we know that sometimes gaps like to be filled. So you could think about waiting next week to see how the market responds to that news. We might find that price does pull back slightly to find a higher base. You might find it comes back and finds support around about 1160. It might come down somewhere here. So that is possible and something to think about. So if you consider next week there could be a pullback in the stock, it is possible. And let's say the price trades down to, let's say, around this level here, maybe 1160, something like that, about halfway up the bar. And then it finds support. You could then put your entry, above this peak here of 1425. So essentially what you're saying is the price action has come up, it's got sold off, it's surged on earnings, there's been a small pullback, test the resolve of the sellers, and then you're going to enter then once it takes out the peak of last week to enter on confirmation. That is another option for you. Whether you're looking to trade this one or hold it longer term, plenty of upside with SoundHound. I really think $25 is a realistic target for this trending AI stock. And of course, if you're holding it over the long term, your entry point is not so important. The fundamentals are strong, it's had a great earnings report, and they have lifted guidance already for the rest of the year. So this one is looking really bullish right now, and it's definitely worth your attention in terms of potentially adding it to your portfolio over the short to medium term. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did you buy SoundHound last week before earnings and you caught that move? Well done if you did. Or perhaps you're thinking about adding it next week for long term. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.